Welcome to Megabucks Radio. Conversations with successful entrepreneurs, sharing their tips and strategies for success. Real-world ideas that can put Megabucks in your bank account. Here's your host, Nina Hirschberger.
Hello, welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Nina Hirschberger, and today my guest is Dr. Alan Lycka. I have known Dr. Lycka first by reputation for years in the marketing world. He's a brilliant marketer, but he was one of the leading cosmetic dermatologists, probably is the leading one for the last 3 decades until I think recently you sold your practice about a few months ago, 6 months ago or something.
Well, last February, I decided I had had enough of the rat race, and I decided I was going to not do it anymore. So for 6 months, I had locums work for me, people that would work for a doctor, and then I ended up selling it last summer. Now, that doesn't mean I'm quiet by any means. I'm busier now than I've ever been.
For those who are just listening, I mean, you were known as helping to develop a particular kind of liposuction and also a surgery for removing skin cancer, because you're a dermatologist.
I was one of the world's experts in a type of liposuction called laser-assisted, vibratory-assisted, tumescent liposuction, and I was one of the leading cancer surgeons for something called Mohs micrographic surgery for over 3 decades.
So, a pretty amazing man, but there was, in 2003, something happened in your life, and it's the reason I got you on this call, because not only have you written a book, you have a co-author, you've written a book about it, we'll talk about that in a second, but also, I mean, we're right now in this coronavirus pandemic, and there's a lot of fear, and you certainly understand that kind of fear, and you've got some real solutions.
I'd like to talk on all those things for just a minute. Back in 2003, I was walking with my spouse, Lucy, in Disney World, and all of a sudden my wife turned to me and said, "What's the matter with?" And I looked at her, and I did not have the faintest idea what she was talking about. She could see that in my face. I said, "Dear, what are you talking about?" She said, "Your foot is flapped." Now, what the heck's that supposed to mean? Your foot is flapping, I said. She said, "Listen to your foot." Now, who in the world would say, "Listen to your foot"? So as I was walking, I listened to my foot, and all of a sudden I had developed a foot drop, and my foot was going slap, 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 slap against the pavement with every step I took. So my wife said, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Dear, I haven't got the faintest idea. It's 95 out here. It's hot. Maybe it's the heat." And my wife said, No. I'm a doctor, too. There's something definitely wrong with you. When we get back to Canada, you've got to get it checked out. Now, when your wife tells you you've got to get it checked out, you know if you're listening to her, you know what's good for you, you're going to listen. So I had the $1 million workup. I had CAT scans, brain scans, scan. And at the end of it, you know what they showed, Nina?
What?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. The doctors were perplexed. They thought I had a brain tumor, or they thought I had a slipped disc or something. They couldn't find anything. So one day a neurologist called me to his office and said, "Dr. Lycka, you better be sitting down when I tell you this." I said, "Why? What's wrong?" He said, "You've got ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. Get your affairs in order. In 6 months, you're going to be dead." Now, if you're talking fear, that was fear that I had at that moment. I could have I was trembling like a leaf. And I asked him, "How can you prove this diagnosis?" He said, "It's easy. We can prove it on autopsy." No bedside manner at all in this guy. And I looked at him and I told him, "I'm not going to die to prove you wrong." So I went home, I talked to my wife, and I went through the stages of death and dying that were written by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Anger, denial, depression, bargaining. And the last step is acceptance. The only step I wouldn't get to acceptance. So back in 2003, I scanned the internet. I went around, I looked for everything that could look like ALS. And I found a doctor in Colorado Springs, Colorado, by the name of David Mart. Now, David had gone through a very similar story that I had done. He got markedly worse, though, and on his deathbed, he couldn't even lift his head from the pillow. A doctor came up from Texas, a Dr. Harvey, to say goodbye to David. And he looked at David and he said, you know, David, there's something wrong with this picture. David said, what? What's wrong? He said, you don't have ALS. You have been bitten by a tick, I'll bet you, and you've got chronic Lyme's disease. Well, how can that cause a neurological illness, David asked. Well, the tick causes some strange immune system, and you start to get weaker and weaker. But he said the good news is if I'm right, I can start you on treatment, and we'll get you better. And you know what happened?
He got better.
David was put on antibiotics, and like Lazarus, he arose from the dead. So I knew I had to get in touch with David. So I got on the phones, and any doctor can get in touch with any other doctor in this world. So I phoned the hospitals, and I found him at the Methodist Hospital, and they put me right through to him. And I said, David, this is my story. He said, Barry, can you come down? It was our Thanksgiving weekend in 2003. I said, David, I can't. He said, why? I said, I've got 40 people coming over for dinner on Monday morning. You can't do this to me. He said, Barry, aren't there any planes in Canada? So I went and I told my wife, I'm going to be away. And she said, again? I said, yeah, this time it's important, dear. I think I've got the solution for my problem. She said, then by all means, you must go. 40 people, I can handle them. You know, I raised our family of 4 daughters, and we've got 7 grandchildren. This is nothing. Oh, I said, of course, I knew you were very talented. So I get on the plane. And the plane from Edmonton to Denver is wonderful. Then from Denver to Colorado is the worst plane in the world. It's like the drop of doom. You know the drop of doom, don't you, Nina?
I know.
The drop of doom is like at Disneyland where the elevator drops 100 feet in a minute, and then it goes up again and drops again 100 feet in a minute. So your stomach goes right up into your throat and you vomit immediately. Wow. It's one of the worst things in the world. So the plane ride is only 10 minutes long, but by the time I get off, I literally crawl off the plane. And, there was David on the tarmac to meet me. You know, this was 2003. It was pre-9/11. If you knew people at the airport, there were no rules. You could drive right onto the tarmac in these little places. And he said, Barry, you don't look so good. David, I said, I don't feel so good. He said, yeah, that plane ride was probably what's happening in your life, the drop of doom. So David and I went and talked. We talked for hours. The next minute he did a couple of tests, and he said, Barry, history is repeating itself. I'm going to make you better. And since 2003 till now, I knew I'd be fine. You know, a little bit of weakness in my arm and my leg. But guess what? I'm doing fine. Now, if I could survive the drop of doom, if I could survive that sort of life, guess what? I can teach others to survive it. This time that we're going through is very scary. I just read the United States has more COVID cases than any place in the world right now. And it's scary as hell for everybody because the economy is crumbling. Everybody's going through social isolation. This has all happened in about 2 weeks. COVID hit here 2 weeks ago Wednesday, and it's now Thursday. So in 15 days, the whole world has totally changed. The world's gone nuts. And everybody's gone nuts with it. But when I look at this in perspective, and I don't mean to belittle this by any means, last year in Italy, in 2017 in Italy, in statistics, there were 20,000 deaths from the flu. In British Columbia, where we now have maybe 50 or 60 deaths, there were 3,500 deaths from the flu last year. So, these numbers are scary and alarming, and everything's alarming. But in reality, we've been through this before, and we really have to realize that these are just stepping stones to get there. So what I got to tell everybody right now is, first thing is take a chill pill. Take a deep breath. Relax. If you follow the advice of people right now, there's very little chance you're going to get COVID. There's very little chance you're going to get this illness. And this blip is going to go away like a blip on the radar, and then we got to get back to normal. But right now, this fear message that's on there, if you're watching TV, my biggest advice for you is maybe watch the news once a day and turn it off. Don't listen to CNN or anything like this where every 10 minutes the world's going to die. The world's going to end tomorrow. I really think these messages are unhealthy. I think the fear that we're going through is more unhealthy than the COVID virus itself. Now, I'm not trying to say that to belittle this at all. Believe me, this is a scary thing. And I know people have had loved ones that have been hurt and loved ones that have been affected for that, and I feel very sorry for you. But remember, all things will pass, and this will pass too.
Yeah, that's very good advice. My only advice is I haven't watched news in 35 years, so I would say turn the TV off all the time for news.
And right now there might be some reports that are coming through that you have to pay attention to, but I don't think you need to go crazy about this. Contrary to popular belief, every day that the world's been ending, I've seen a beautiful sunrise and a beautiful sunset. I've seen that in Alberta here, winter is starting to go away, everything's starting to melt, that we're going to have a beautiful springtime. Yes, there's going to be a period of time where this is going to be a problem. Maybe, I hate to say, following the Chinese example, 8 to 12 weeks. But at the same time, there's going to be a rebirth. There's going to be a regrowth. After every recession, there's been a big boom up on the upside. So if you can't do anything right now, you should be preparing for the upside that's going to come. But right now, Nina, I must be one of the craziest people in the world because I'm launching a book during this great pandemic of 2020. I'm writing my book, The Secrets of Living a Fantastic Life, will be launching very soon. And, I'm going to ask everybody to be part of history. Forget the COVID virus for a minute and buy 1 or 2 copies of my book at fantasticlifebook.com. I'd like you to do it through that site because then that way I can monitor who's buying it. If it goes straight to Amazon, I have no idea who's buying it. But I would love everybody to buy 2 copies, fantasticlifebook.com. One for yourself and one for your mother if you have one. Give it to her for Mother's Day. She'll love it. If you don't have a mother, give it to any woman in your life that's a mother. She will love it. This is going to be a bestseller guaranteed.
Yeah, I've actually already ordered my too, so no, I totally get it. So what is the name of the book?
It's called The Secrets of Living a Fantastic Life. Discover the 13 golden pearls within. And in this book, I and a co-author, Harriet Tinka, talk about 13 golden pearls that you can live your life by. 13 things that we found through our victory over death that a person could live a fantastic life as well, and they don't have to go through the hardship that we've done.
Can you give us 1 or 2 of those pearls?
Oh, I think one of them is a great one, and I'm going to tell you a story about it as well. Let's talk for a minute about enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is one of the greatest things that you can bring with you every day, and I'm going to tell you why. There was once a carpenter by the name of Fred. He was tired, he was old, he was at the age of 65, and he decided to quit. So he went to see his boss, and he told his boss, gee, I just can't stand another day of work. I really can't do this anymore. But the boss thought for a minute. He said, Fred, you have been one of our most valuable employees in the whole world. And, Fred, I just can't let you go until you do one more job for me. Could you please build me one more house? There's nobody on my staff that can do this better for you. So Fred thought about it for a little bit, and then begrudgingly he said yes. But his heart wasn't in it. Every day he dragged his arse to work, and he got there bit by bit. He got to the point that he just barely got the job done. It was the shoddiest work he had ever done in his life, but he really didn't care. And he got the job done, and the house barely passed inspection that it was done so poorly. So he went to the boss and said, here, boss, here's the keys to this house. I'm going to leave now. And he said, not so fast, Fred. In this room are a lot of people that really would like to say thank you for all the good work you've done. You've been a fundamental part of my company for the last 30 years. You've helped us make it to the top. He said, all of us want to gather around, have a little party, have a toast to you. And he said, I've got something special for you. So everybody gathered around. Everybody was there to hear this from Fred. And the boss got up and he said, today is Fred's last day on the job. He's been an amazing employee. Let's toast him. So everybody toasted him and gave him a round of applause. And he says, I've got a phenomenal gift to give to Fred. Fred has been doing a special project for me. He built me a special house. And I'm going to give him the keys to this house so he can live in it the rest of his life and enjoy the merits of his success. Now, doesn't that tell you a little bit of enthusiasm there? How enthusiasm is so important, how enthusiasm carries the day in and day out.
Absolutely. That's a great story. Wow. So enthusiasm. So in 2003, when you thought, is that one of the lessons you learned through that whole process?
I learned 13 golden pearls to carry me through all of this. And my partner in this, my co-author, Harriet, also had been through a similar experience that I did. Harriet is a beautiful black lady who I met when I was sponsoring a Women of Distinction event for the YWCA. And she won her category, and we've talked so many times afterwards, and she and I realized we had a common background. Now, Harriet's background is totally different than mine. She was a university student at the University of Calgary in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and when she was there, she met a very nasty person by the name of Martin. Martin once kidnapped her, stabbed her, and left her for dead.
Ooh. Wow.
Now, from that, Harriet had to pick herself up from the bootstraps rather than live a life of anger, of madness, of paranoia. She learned to live a fantastic life as well. So that's where we came up to these 13 golden pearls. They were born out of adversity. They were born out of hardship, but we found the golden pearls that everybody should live their life by.
Well, the lesson then in this, pandemic is, let's say you're a business owner and you're not going to survive, your business won't survive through this whole thing. But God could have something totally different for you. It could be a new opportunity, a new thing. So the enthusiasm or one of those other 13 principles will determine how you come out of this. Is that the message I'm hearing?
That's the message I'd like everybody to take home. I'd like everybody to realize that this is not the end of the world. I do not know God's plan for me. I certainly didn't know it then. I thought it was be the greatest cosmetic surgeon on the planet for as many years as possible. But really, the plan that's designed for us is far different than we'll ever imagine. But the keys, the little things you do every day in that plan are far more important than the overall plan. And you determine the plan by your activities and your attitude. Attitude is a biggie as well. Attitude is a very amazing thing. So if you're a defeatist and you're going to go home and watch Netflix for 20 hours right now, drink 3 cases of beer every day and just hunker down, I'd really encourage you really not to. I'd really encourage you to really look at your life. If you don't think your business is going to do it, then the answer is, then change. But if your answer can do it, hunker down. Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world, is probably making more money now than he ever did in his life because he was sitting on $150 billion. And $150 billion was the amount that he kept just in cash. Now, his philosophy was you should keep a year's supply of money just in case things shut down for a year. Well, guess what he's doing with that $150 billion right now? He's buying things at a bargain deal that no one else could ever dreamed of. Now, people criticized him for the last 5-10 years, saying, why are you sitting on so much money? Well, his answer to that is, I'm waiting for the fat pitch. Now, do you know baseball at all, Nina?
Just a little, but
Well,
Yeah.
let me explain the fat pitch to you and everybody else that might not understand it. You know, home run hitters are designed to put the ball out of the ballpark. The problem is pitchers are pretty damn good. They throw the pitch where they want 98, 99% of the time. But once in a while, they flub up. They throw a ball that even you or I could hit. Now, to a home run hitter, that's called a fat pitch. So when that fat pitch comes down the alley, guess what? It's a grand slam home run. They hit the ball out of the ballpark. And for people right now, for some industries right now, they're hitting the ball out of the ballpark right now because this is the fat pitch they've been waiting for.
You know, I remember reading that during the Great Depression, there were more millionaires made than any time in history.
Well,
don't know if that's...
Yeah, I remember one story about the Great Depression, and there was this little guy that decided to open a hot dog stand at the side of the road. And so he started selling hot dogs, and then he decided, you know, I'm not making enough money. So he doubled it, the price, and he was still selling hot dogs like crazy. So another couple of weeks, and he decided to double it again. Still selling hot dogs like crazy. A couple of weeks later, he was doing it again. He doubled them again, and it got up to a pretty high price until one day, one of the drivers that came by said to him, don't you know there's a Great Depression on? And his answer was, no, I can't read. Now, this is a story of Zig Ziglar, who was one of the greatest salesmen of all time. Now, Zig is no longer with us. I was fortunate enough to be at a Dan Kennedy event when Zig was, I think, was his 80th or 85th birthday, and I got him to sign a book on that day and got a picture with him. One of my greatest memories. Zig worked harder than anybody else on the planet. On his birthday, when he was 80 or 85, he was at a Dan Kennedy event teaching people how to sell, how to live their lives. To me, that was one of the greatest events ever. Did you get a chance to go to that one, Nina?
I did not, and I'm sorry. There are several people that I'm sorry I never got to meet, and he was one of them.
Well, one thing I'm going to tell everybody right now, if you want to do something, make sure you do it. Do not wait. Do not wait for the next opportunity, because you never know when that opportunity is going to happen. I once had a great friend, a Dr. Kulak, who was a great friend and mentor. He was a friend of mine for a long time. He was going to go down to Haiti for a vacation, and I tried to get together with him, and I talked to him on the phone before he went down there. Unfortunately, we were going to get together when he was going to get back. Unfortunately, he had a massive heart attack there and never made it back. Now, that wasn't Haiti. It was the Dominican Republic, by the way. And, I'm mortified to this day how many times I was so stupid not to do the things I should have done.
Well, I'm going to tell a story about you. I mean, again, I've known about you for a long time before I got to meet you in person. And we were at a mastermind down in Orlando, Florida. And here's this, we've been there the whole day. I mean, when it was lunchtime, I think we had about 2 or 3 hours. And you looked at me and you said, you want to go to Epcot? I said, sure, why not? And so for like 2 hours, you took me right through Epcot, and we ran and we went all over, and we got back and finished the mastermind. You take advantage of every opportunity, everything. It was something that I always remember about you.
I have forgotten about that. You're just tickling my memory, but how could you not be in Orlando and not go to Epcot? I mean, Epcot's one of the greatest places on the earth. I mean, not just for children, but for every adult as well. It is amazing how Epcot is. It really, if people want to learn how to market, I really encourage you to learn from Disney, because Disney has marketing down in such an amazing way. I can't believe it. And also read everything by Clay Cockerell, who was one of the greatest right-hand man of Disney in the business of Disney. Clay Cockrell has great things on there. How to be an executive, how to be a leader, how to be everything. But at the same time, if you want to be a leader, lead. If you want to have fun. Do not sit back. But boy, well, that was a great day in Orlando, wasn't it?
Well, here's what other people, it's what I would have thought before I met you. Well, those tickets are $100 or whatever they are. I don't even remember. We're going to go there for 2 hours? And you said, oh, absolutely. We're not going to be down in Orlando and not go. And you had been there multiple times. It wasn't like you had never been there before. And it was a big lesson that I learned. Can you spell the last name of the guy that you just talked about?
Cockrell. C-O-C-K-E-R. C-O-C-K-E-R-E-L. Now, there might be two L's in there, but Cockrell.
Okay,
Clay
and
is his first name.
Clay, okay. So that's a great, great tip. I mean, even when you still had your cosmetic practice, I mean, the thing that I always think about with Disney is it's all about the experience, all the senses. And so when you had your practice, I mean, it was an experience with you.
It was an experience, and I always tried to make it like the Cheers bar, where everybody knew your name. So anybody that came through my doors would know your name and you'd know their name. It was a personal, hand-holding, wonderful experience for everybody. I can't go anywhere in Edmonton or the surrounding areas without somebody knowing me and saying, Dr. Lyka, you helped me. You helped my mother. You helped everybody else. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about helping because that's one of the most important things. I have a friend by the name of Dr. Crutchfield, who's a dermatologist in Minneapolis. He is still a cosmetic doctor, does a lot of work. So we had the chance of talking in the last 2 weeks about this and what he's doing. And, I said, what you should have is a special mask called an N95 mask, which helps to prevent viruses. And he laughed at me and he said, I got a story about that. I said, okay, tell me your story. He said, I had a painter in my office and he was using one of those masks. And I asked him where he got it. He said, I got the mask at a paint store. So Charles dropped everything, went to the paint store to get an N95 mask. He went to the clerk and the clerk said, no, sir, those have been gone for weeks. We don't have any of those. But behind the desk was another lady who was the manager of the store. And she said to Charles, Charles, you're Dr. Crutchfield, right? And he said, yes, I am. He said, come with me. So she took him into the back room, and they had one case with 20 masks left. He said, well, can I buy it? She said, no, you can't. He said, why? She said, it's because your money is no good here. You've been such a good help for me and my family. I'm giving you this case of masks. Take it well. Now, that's another lesson I taught Charles, is that you have to work on your halo every day because you never know when your halo is going to be important. You never know when it's going to be that. So you should always pay it forward, no matter what you do. You should always give because you never know when you're going to get it back.
Oh, is that one of your other pearls that's in the book, or is that just
I have so many pearls in there, I just can't even say them all. Each story is based on a story, just like my Carpenter story, and each one is a dialogue between Harriet and myself, and then there's the book is just jam-packed full of amazing things. We have quotes from all the people in the world, and it's just an experience to have this book. It's a voyage of discovery, and I want everybody to embark on that discovery. It's called The Secrets of Living a Fantastic Life. You can get it at fantasticlifebook.com, and I'd like you to buy 2 copies, one for you and somebody special in your life. And please do it right now. It would help me get to the bestsellers category, and if you help me get there, I will publish your name in that book, and you will be part of history, because there's very few books that are going to make the bestsellers list in a pandemic.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, I am looking at the time clock, and it's saying we're out of time. But Dr. Lyka, this was so amazing. I am always so honored and I just love talking to you. I mean, we could do this
Nina,
again.
it's always a great fun. This is why when you announced this morning, I said, I got to be on the show for it with you. I want to help as many people as I can. If anybody would like to get in touch with me, you can get in touch with me with my email, BASL, Bravo, Apple, Sierra, Lima, CJSM, Charlie, Jam, Sierra, Mary, BASLCJSM @gmail.com. Love to talk to you and love to help you through this difficult time. This is a time when we all have to pull together, even though we're socially distancing and isolating. I think this is a time for the world to live a little bit better, and we can all help each other through this mess.
Well, a good friend of mine says not social distancing. It needs to be physical distancing. We need to be socially closer than ever before.
Well, I've seen so much hate and anger come out in this. I would like to put an end to that. I'd like to see people pulling together and loving each other more as a result of this. And I'd like everybody on this call, to just think of what they can do for somebody else in this crisis and just do it. I think it's a very important time for people to pay it forward. It's a very important time to do the good things that are necessary. Maybe there's a person that's locked in. Maybe you can do something for them. If you're living in the frozen north like I am and their little walks covered, well, why don't you go shovel it for them? Why don't you drop some cookies on somebody's deck, on their door, ring the doorbell, don't talk to them or anything, but just give them some cookies. Why not do something nice for somebody just because it's the right thing to do?
Good suggestions. Well, this is Nina Hershberger saying thank you to Dr. Lycka. Until next time, remember, now is the time to take massive action. Talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to Megabucks Radio with Nina Hershberger. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or to listen to past episodes, visit megabucksradio.com.